Hi, everyone. It's Andrew with The Market Mindset. Today, we're speaking with Patrick Elliott, who's the President, CEO, and Director over at Forte Minerals. We've been looking forward to chatting with you for a while. You've had some great news out regarding ESG. But before we get into all of that, because often when people talk about ESG, they're thinking way down the line, let's talk about the overall thesis, what you guys think of Peru, where you think the market's going, and how are things going today. So I know that's a lot, but welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about Forte.
Well, thanks for having us. We're glad to be here and finally share the story of Forte Minerals. It goes back about 20 years when we were exploring in Chile. Chile is the number one copper producer, and it's been explored and developed quite heavily. And Peru was fairly untapped. This is around circa 2005 and 6, and a few geologists, we moved up into Peru, set up an office, and started applying our exploration techniques into looking for copper and gold. And so in 2008, we started Globetrotters Resources. It's a private project generator that uses remote sensing, a few other geophysical applications to look for alteration from space. And this type of technique works incredibly well in the Andes, where you don't have a whole lot of vegetation cover. So the signatures that came back just lit up the whole country like a Christmas tree. And it's a very long process to be able to follow up and access and logistics and prioritizing which ones maybe based on size. So that's how it started in 2008 with our private project generator. And lead time, we've made some discoveries, and we put a massive portfolio of over like 30 projects together in the project generator. Fortunately, Forte has a strategic relationship with the project generator. I'm a founder of it, so is Richard Osman, Manuel Montoyo. We've helped fund it, and it really was created as a treadmill to generate a portfolio that we could pick from and take Forte public. So there's a sister company, Element 29, that was a spin out of Globetrotters assets, 2 copper porphyries, and now Forte. This is now over 15 years that we've been working on this generation of high quality gold and copper projects. And it's a unique strategy that we apply, but we've proven that it works, and we're prepared for the next copper boom that's imminent.
It's really interesting because when we've been talking before, prior, just the excitement you have for this as well, and whenever you put into context of for someone who's new to the story, you think, oh, I haven't heard of Forte before. And it's like you're saying, 15 years to get a hand on this project, to be able to work on it. People often don't realize that there are good projects that sometimes change hands, or the amount of work sometimes that goes in behind the scenes to get to where you are to start, looking at poking holes and building out a discovery resource at a place that you love.
Certainly. Yeah, and this process and this methodology, it does take time, but it's low cost, and we also, we're there on the coattails during the downturns when mid-tiers and majors sometimes have to relinquish their exploration assets, and we're usually the first ones to hop on that opportunity. And we've picked up some substantial assets that way as well. So it's not always through remote sensing discovery. Also, following the prolific mineral belts that are might be widely held in a really good market and is scarcely held in a downturn. So picking up good properties for low cost is part of the model as well. And that we balanced our portfolio that way. We have 2 tremendous copper projects, one that's never been drilled, that we just received the permit for back in December of 2023. So it'll get drilled for the first time sometime this year. It's got the alteration footprint of a major porphyry copper deposit that you'd like to see on surface, and should be exciting to drill that. Meanwhile, we have a historically drilled copper project. So when I say balancing that portfolio, it's not just going out and making new discoveries and hoping for the best, but a historically drilled one that's shown robust economic grades of copper and gold in that porphyry system. And the model there, the strategy is to working with the communities, advancing the drill permits on those. There's areas in Peru that are challenging to work in, but we've brought our ESG and social team in-house as of about 2.5 years ago, and that's made a tremendous change in the way that we engage and we plan and organize those efforts.
And that report you came out, I mean, that is a crucial point. Even if ESG can be a controversial topic, especially in the States when they hear it, it is a vital aspect that is overall good, because it is talking with all the stakeholders, making sure that those people that feel included in this process, that can kill a project, whether it's in Quebec, BC, Nevada. If you don't take into account every stakeholder, problems can come down the line. Even if you have the best resource out there, it can have a potential mine in 10 years of litigation. So having this report ahead of time and working model where you're engaging with all of those stakeholders right at the get-go, it's giving you time to build that relationship with them as well on an ongoing basis, where they feel like they're with you every step of the way.
Historically, yeah, it was more focused on the development side, where the engagement would come into play, and the environmental impacts assessment, further down the road. But it's starting earlier now, right from the first drill program. So it's sustainable practice is very important. We have a deep-rooted commitment to the environmental care and sustainable mining methods. So it's very important. It's a testament we brought that in-house. We don't outsource that work and the consultants anymore. It's such a big part of our work program that it's important to have that. But going back to Peru and why Peru, and Peru is the number 2 copper producer in the world. They're a giant, and it's no surprise, because the southern Peru, the Paleocene southern Peru copper belt is mineral rich. It's very prolific. You have some of the world's largest copper mines in production there, and all kinds of exploration throughout that. And on top of that, you have the northern Peru copper belt, which also boasts some incredible mineral assemblages and deposits. So there's a lot that remains untapped and remains to be explored, and it's a premier place to be. It's got the infrastructure and the access, and the regulatory environment is supportive of that. And every single major and mid-tier gold and copper company, they wouldn't be there operating, exploring in the country if the regulatory and the permitting wasn't in place. It wasn't operable.
And not to be too promotional, but it is like big game hunting. Like, this is like you're going for bigger deposits. These are potentially very mineral rich areas. It's not just finding a grade that's economic, and maybe we could have a small mine. I mean, it is large kind of
large tonnage, grade,
large tonnage, it is potentially large tonnage,
and long
large
mine
grade.
life, and that's it. That's the type of deposits that we're going after, and that you would find in these mineral belts. Porphyry coppers, 1 billion tons, and on good copper grade, some copper mollies and copper golds. But same with the high sulfidation systems. They're the gold system, the epithermal gold systems, and they naturally occur on the periphery of some of these big porphyry belts. And so that's why you find both the copper porphyries and the high sulfidations within these same belts. But that's what we're going after. They're big alteration footprints, large tonnage, very meaningful for mid-tier and major companies to develop and put into a large, long-term mine life.
And when you're saying like why Peru, and it's such a major place for copper, is also the why copper. people are kind of coming to terms with the idea that, okay, we need all this copper for this electrification. Okay, I kind of get it. They maybe don't know the supply demand curve where like this, we don't have enough. We need to have discoveries. And we just saw in the news just recently as well, Zinjan mining, looking to put 2.1 billion into, I think it's Zambia. So there's at play places that China is fighting for, but also I think the West in whole is going to have to look to go, where are we going to get our supply of copper? Because they're going to need a lot over in China, and we're certainly going to need a lot for any of the infrastructure that we wish to do.
Well, that's it. That's the major catalyst that we're seeing. Like it's been dubbed that copper is the critical metal for the future. Fortunately, there's no direct replacement for copper for its conductivities and its characteristics and what it does and the price that it's at. You cannot replace copper. And fortunate for us, we're in the copper business, and that's where we've been focusing on for over 20 years. And what we're going to see here is a lot of current copper mines are seeing a drop in production and output, and they're now mining lower quality grade ore, which is affecting the output, right? The overall output. And somewhere in 2025, we're going to see that inflection point where the demand is just going to outstrip the supply. There hasn't been enough exploration, enough discovery and development of new large copper resources that can fill the void from some of these larger end of mine life or kind of dwindling production scenarios. And so, that catalyst is very important to understand. It's inevitable. It's going to happen, and it's about preparing ourselves and being a part of that and filling that pipeline. What we're also seeing is that the major copper companies, gold companies, even too, like Newmont, Newcrest now, they're looking for porphyry coppers in Peru, and but not just them. The copper giants, they need more pipeline to develop. And instead of looking at feasibility stage assets, they're looking earlier now. They're looking earlier in exploration to help fuel that and advance that, because it's just not enough on-stream projects.
Yeah, because their model before it being pretty much, we'll let the junior markets do the R&D for us. If they find something, we'll come in and buy it. But they really weren't a part of the R&D to the large extent. And for a while, 80s, 90s, even the 2000s, there was a very healthy junior equity market where retail investors would come in and maybe fund that R&D, but that's gotten a bit challenging. And you're saying that earlier, like we've got a challenging market right now, but these challenging markets for someone like yourself, these are the best of times. Like this is it, or like this is whenever people feel like they're getting punched out a little bit, is that this is the time to really focus in on what's the theme here and who are the companies that are going to provide some of the solutions that we're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And slow markets or downturns, there's all kinds of opportunity, whether it's acquisition or progressing your properties through permitting and being ready for when there's improvement and you can get in there and drill and start developing resources ultimately. And so, taking advantage of that, we've had a couple of years of permitting. We've got two permitted projects, one gold high sulfidation and one porphyry copper that I mentioned. They both got permitted in the last 6 months. The DIA has been received, and so both those projects have never been drilled. So it'll be exciting to get in there and drill those. It's like I mentioned, it can take up to 2 years or longer to go through this permitting process.
Yeah.
So fortunate that we have that, and we'll work on the permitting for other two historically drilled assets as well. But the main focus really is building that portfolio to fulfill like a pipeline of projects for the developers and the producers, right? And
that's what this project generator model is, that you have different time frames, different kind of in theory, this might be a 5-year project, this might be a 10-year, this might be, and one might outrank the other depending on what data comes back. But having that pipeline of different types in different jurisdictions and different readiness can be very, very beneficial as an overall portfolio, just as someone's own portfolio, having bonds and equity to kind of weigh out the risks.
Right. When you're investing in exploration, you're also investing in the team. You're investing in the team that can execute and build value and take these projects to where they need to be for sale. And fortunately, we have assembled what we believe is the premier copper gold Peruvian exploration team. Manuel Montoya is our general manager in Peru, and Manuel has several discoveries under his belt. He discovered Zafranal for Teck Resources, and I worked on Zafranal with Manuel, as did one of our advisors, Tom Henriksen, and now it's going through into feasibility. And it's a tremendous copper moly porphyry that's it's got the size, the grade that you like to see in the country. And so Manuel was instrumental in that discovery and moving that forward. He came on board with us in 2008 with our Globetrotters, our private project generator we mentioned, and he's now our general manager in Peru. But Manuel and his team, lead an incredible operation from logistics to social engagement to permitting and the exploration permitting through drilling sites. So. Tom Henriksen, I've worked with him many years. And Tom's made, I think, at least 4 discoveries in Peru, and it's not impossible to make these kind of discoveries this age too. This is, he discovered Corani for Bear Creek, Oyachea for Minera IRL. He was instrumental in Constancia for Norsemont, that was then sold to Hudbay. Hudbay, one of their top mines of production now in the country. And, there's tremendous potential of untapped resources that remain in Peru, and mostly due to getting a late start. We brought Ricardo Labo onto our team. He's the ex-vice minister of mines. Pretty instrumental as an advisor. He helps with the permitting, political advisory, social advisory, skill sets that we just don't have with our geological team that are very important in navigating and operating in the country. And recently in the fall, we added a lead energy advisor, Michael Carter, that's a friend that I went to college with, and he's been working in green energy, so hydroelectric, run-of-river, and solar. I worked for Canadian Solar for many years, and he's a consultant now, advising mining companies and energy companies on alternatives and whatnot. So really glad to have a very robust team that covers different facets of the business. That's not just technical.
Well, and that's what's so great is when you see a team that not only knows that area that intimately well and has discoveries in it, because that means the modeling as well. They can see things that maybe someone else can't, and it's very different to say have a discovery in Quebec and then go to Peru. It's slightly different. So it has a team that is very familiar with every step of the process, what the people are like, how to deal, like all those soft skills on top of the hard geo skills are invaluable, because there's enough difficulty, as in mining, and problems can arise, that whenever you have the ESG in place with the report, you're working with the right people, you've got the permitting in place, you have the ex-minister in place, these types of things all add up. And often people say in very mineral rich areas, sometimes it's that, you'll probably find something, but can you develop it? And that's, having this kind of team put together it makes it a lot more possible to, if you find what you're looking for, that something can come to the table.
No, absolutely. We, try and cover those different areas. We've brought on a financial advisor as well, Peter Espeg, many years working for investment bank, and working in the investment financial sector that's has a incredible network that. But just the advisory on how we mitigate financial risk and move through some of the hard times and prepare for good markets. So it's all very helpful. But going back to the original the model, the unique strategy that we deployed, it was driven from Richard Osman. He's a geophysicist, geologist. Worked for Anglo for many years, and he actually developed a lot of this processing methodology, whereby he develops all kinds of algorithms in order to filter the data and desensitize it, so that what we're looking at are not false positives in the alteration. Because you can process this data many which ways and come up with different results. And he has this ability, like I mentioned, it works really well in the Andes, where you don't have any vegetation cover.
Yep.
And you can see the alteration incredibly. And so one of the discoveries that was made from space is Elida. And Elida is a porphyry copper moly up in central Peru. And it's held by our sister company, Element 29. And this should have been discovered 30 years ago, but there was an access issue, and there's a large river there that no one ever wanted to cross, right?
Yeah.
So with binoculars or a telescope, you could see the alteration from one of the roads, but no one ever crossed it and had a closer look to see what the alteration was and if there was copper present. So it's a very recent discovery that's been drilled by Lundin and Element 29, and it has the potential to be a 1 billion ton copper deposit with good grades. So that just shows you that the model and that strategic approach that we apply, that unique remote sensing targeting, is working, and we can take it to the discovery and into the resource development stage. So there's many more. The problem is time, right? Having the time and the resources and the team to be able to get out in the field and follow up on these priorities. But there's another 50 priority targets that we've never been to. We've never been to site that, they're in the, we got to couple them into the top 10, and access becomes the issue, timing a year, rainy season, whatnot. But when we do have time, and when things are slow, we try and get teams in there to follow up on them. So this is why it takes so long to generate. But fortunately, starting 15 years ago, we've got a step ahead, and a lot of these projects are coming to fruition.
Well, that's a great thing for someone looking at you now. They're getting to look at you with a fresh set of eyes, where you've done the 15 years of work already. So for them, it's brand new. But they're getting to think, oh, okay, wow, you've done all this work. And you're obviously passionate about what you've got here, and that's going to come across very well. And putting it all together for someone, it looks like it could be an exciting year for today. That's for sure.
Yeah, and it's people often ask, like, well, how could you have such a good relationship with this strategic project generator? And it needs to be said that the strategic project generator, they control 15% of Forte. So the shareholders of the project generator see the benefit of moving these projects into Forte and advancing them, with drill capital and developing resources. They'll hold an NSR, a royalty, in the project generator.
Sure.
That's they built up many royalties with other companies on various deals. But ultimately, we do have kind of first pick of what comes in there based on the relationship and the ownership of the private project generator and the public company Forte. And so that's how we do it with them. It's not big purchase deals or big option deals. It's they're all done at very, very low cost, and we brought them in with equity into the company.
So as we were saying, with downturn markets and whatnot, that often has time to get a hold of pretty interesting projects. And as we have in the news release today, this is quite a news release and quite a property. Tell us about how you got this and what the numbers are and what it's like.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big part of our acquisition strategy as well, is spending lots of time working, trying to acquire and, looking for the right opportunities in the market to make a deal and to do this. So Altaruri, this press release we've come out with, it's a phenomenal high sulfidation gold system that was discovered back in the late 90s. The first drill hole into it drilled 131 meters of 2.55 grams gold. Within that 131 meters, the top 55 meters from surface had 6 grams gold. So an incredible hole, an incredible start. There was a few other exploratory holes done within that alteration zone, and lots of work to be done to advance that. But we're really excited to acquire this. Hochschilds will retain a 1% NSR on it, royalty, as they previously were in partnership with our project generator Globetrotters on it. And this was about a 10-year effort from our project generator, working with Teck and then with Hochschilds in order to gain control 100% of this project. So now it's in Forte, and within this whole zone, there's also a porphyry alteration zone. So 4,700 hectares. There's also Cerro Quillo. It's another porphyry that was drilled by a few holes by Anglo, and they had some joy and some decent intercepts of gold in 300 meters of about a half gram gold and some copper and moly credits there too. So lots of work done to advance the porphyry, but the main focus is this Altaruri high sulfidation. It's 15 kilometers due south of Pierina, which is a Barrick Gold's high sulfidation deposit that they've been mining for about 20 years. They mined over 8 million ounces of gold from there, and this is a mid to late discovery from Arequipa Resources. Catherine McLeod-Salzer and David Lowell discovered this, I believe, in a helicopter initially, is how they saw the color anomaly and decided to land and take some samples. But that's what they were looking for. They were exploring and looking for alteration, and it turned into a phenomenal deposit that's kind of coming to the end of its usual mine life. But it's within the same belt and same host rocks of Pierina, and we're excited to advance this. Like we can build a lot of value from where it's at and build resources.
And that's what's cool about whenever you've got a mine next door, where you can see what the geology looks like, what's coming out of the ground, how does it flow, how is it working, so that you have something to compare against when you're picking targets and you're expanding on that. How much work are you putting into this property this year? What are you guys thinking of doing?
So now that we have the 2 drill permits for our other gold and our porphyry copper project, we will focus on the permitting, social engagement with this project with Altaruri and our Don Gregorio porphyry up in northern Peru. That's has some challenges in that area. It's not impossible. There's lots of mines that have been put into production, but it takes a special strategic approach to work with the people and support them and engage on your activities and whatnot. So we're working to move those 2 projects along now. That our in-house social team, permitting team will move from Pucarini and Esperanza now towards Altaruri and Don Gregorio.
And that's why it's so important with this ESG report coming up, because people don't realize that can also be a catalyst for large funds. Because I've always been wondering why, like Goldman Sachs talks about copper being like the new oil. So it's I'm thinking, well, when are they going to come to the party? Like, when are the big funds going to come? And often what I hear from hearsay and whatnot is until we can't, because there has to be a strong ESG. There has to be a model that we can work with. And this seems like mining has a chance right now to really get a spotlight on it in a good way, and pull in some of that big money that I think wants to come to the market as well. And having that strong ESG plan where you're working with all the stakeholders, we've got an environmental plan in place. All these things, not only does it make the people in the country feel like they're included and at ease, certainly institutional investors that need, bid cars and Tesla and everything else, like all those kind of things to work.
No, absolutely. The ESG component is critical. It's not mandatory by any means for a junior exploration company, but when we looked at our operations and our principles and our policies, we felt like we were already well on the way, and so why not put the extra effort into delineating all that, organizing the data, and what it's done is it's helped identify areas for improvement and areas that we could focus on, but it's also highlighted and showcased the work that we do and the kind of the principles that we follow and the approaches that we make in our efforts. And so it's a very complex report, but now when you have an organized report, we've just a couple of weeks ago released that now, so it's on the website. You can easily navigate through that to see the 21-step criteria on everything that's included there.
I think it's also interesting from my perspective when I'm kind of analyzing and looking at stocks, is that when a company is already looking at the ESG aspect, it's kind of like they're anticipating, we like what we've got, we're already thinking down the road that we need this to work, instead of, well, we'll worry about the ESG if we find something. You've been working on this for a long time, so let's work on this big factor, this big chunk of what can be a problem, but can also be a big benefit as we're moving along. So and that, I think, is a good signal to people who are looking at, especially a junior, because like I said, it's management, it's the project, and it's the money behind it. And when you see that the management's already very concerned about that aspect, that's probably a pretty good sign for them to pay attention to what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. 20 years ago when we were exploring, we certainly didn't have all these measures in place, albeit there was parts that were applied to different programs, but now it's more complex and organized and very transparent.
So we got PDAC coming up. That's going to be a big show here in Toronto. I'm sure you're going to have a busy time there. What after PDAC should people be looking for? Because we always look for different milestones. So, and once again, we're in a challenging market, and maybe it's not reflected in the stock. Maybe it is. We like to have like kind of checklists as to what people should kind of hold you accountable for on management. What are some of the news that they should be paying attention to in the next short term, midterm?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to these permits that we received mid to late 2023. Those projects are ready to get a drill program going. Hopefully sometime mid 2024 will be. There's a few things that you need to add on to the environmental impact statement. The water agreement and the previous consultation with the communities, and those have been progressing, and so when they come through and the funding comes in, then we expect to drill one or both of those projects. One's the porphyry copper moly in the Paleocene belt. It's in elephant country. It's got a huge alteration zone, indicative of what you'd see in some of these other major porphyry systems in southern Peru, and the other one's a high sulfidation gold that's never been drilled and got phenomenal gold grades on surface. So they both need to be drilled. It'd be very exciting, and likewise moving those other two projects through the social engagement, the permitting, and getting the environmental studies going at our new project, Altaruri, and Don Gregorio.
And we did talk too much about gold, but it goes without saying. I mean, gold is critical. We're seeing, I mean, central banks buying gold at rapid rates. The gold price is doing well. I think people are pretty bullish on gold in general. So I kind of take it for granted that, you know, gold is gold. It's great.
Yeah.
But it's wonderful to have this new project with that kind of at surface gold. I mean, that's a very rare situation to be having. That'll be a lot of fun to poke some holes in to see how that develops. And of course, this copper, it's two different things that we like for the same reasons in a very mineral rich area. And we're really excited to follow the story and see what comes down the road. But there aren't too many companies out there that have two big projects like this that should be garnering a lot of attention.
No, absolutely. And we planned and initiated it to be a copper company, right? It was a copper company. And as you know, some copper porphyries come with a gold byproduct. But the high sulfidation systems that came along, they were just too good not to acquire.
Yeah.
And so that's why these two gold projects became part of the portfolio. They help balance them, but then, you know, we have early stage and ones that have historically been drilled. And so we try and balance them that way, but, you know, elemental wise as well. But yeah, we're very bullish copper and we love gold too. So it's a good place to be.
Excellent. Well, it's going to be quite a year. We look forward to hearing more about what's happening down there, but congratulations so far. Once again, this is new, you know, for me and for a lot of you, but it's 10, 15 years in the making for you, a lot of work to get here, but you could get involved and have that, you know, 10 to 15 years of work at a bargain right now. If you're interested, do your own due diligence, take a look at Forte Minerals, and we're looking forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thanks so much. Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of value to be uncovered, and you know, it's a $5 million market cap story. So we're really just getting going.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.